We are learning some new information this morning on the latest on the back and forth over the files related to Jeffrey Epstein. House Oversight Committee Chairman James Comer has issued a slew of deposition subpoenas from multiple people, including the Department of Justice, former President Bill Clinton, and former Secretary of State Hillary Clinton. CBS News Justice reporter Jake Rosen is following this for us from Washington. Jake, the big question now is what comes next here?
Well, that's right. That is the big question, and it comes as the House is adjourned right now down the street from us here in D.C., Mugo, because there would have been a floor-wide vote to potentially force the unsealing and public release of the Department of Justice's Epstein files. Speaker Mike Johnson did not want that, so they took a break for this part of the summer. The pressure has not stopped, and this is actually a semi-bipartisan resolution and statement from Chairman Comer, who has promised to get more information out of the Department of Justice and people who were involved in these Jeffrey Epstein investigations throughout administrations. There are former Trump officials here. Think about Bill Barr, Jeff Sessions. There are other people from the Obama era, Robert Mueller, Merrick Garland, who obviously was the Attorney General under President Biden, Eric Holder, some names who really are from a different generation of politics maybe than what we're living in now, but all whose Department of Justice or law enforcement organizations oversaw multiple investigations into Jeffrey Epstein. They want to sit down with these people, ask questions, and potentially get new answers out of them if there are any to be found. But the most interesting thing is the bipartisan resolution here, Mugo, to force the Department of Justice to release files from the multiple investigations, and in addition to that, a resolution to make sure that victims are protected, and also to force the release of any communications between the Biden Department of Justice and the FBI and White House about the Epstein files during President Biden's administration, obviously between 2020 and 2024.
Yeah, and Jake, we mentioned some very big names there. So how likely is it that they'll actually sit through a deposition?
Well, it depends on how much they want to fight this. There have been 3 instances in which a president has been compelled by Congress to subpoena. It's been Donald Trump, Harry Truman, and now potentially Bill Clinton. No president has actually sat down for any of these depositions so far, so likely President Clinton is not going to be forced to testify here. But it's very possible that other law enforcement officials are going to have to fight this and at least state why, or potentially come in and plead the Fifth Amendment, like we're seeing right now in Congress in different congressional investigations into President Biden and his administration. But the big question really here is there even anything new that could be uncovered on this front, Amugo, as the political football is still being passed between the White House, Department of Justice, and the courts in New York of whether these grand jury testimonies have anything new, whether there's anything else there, or whether potentially any details of the conversation between Ghislaine Maxwell and the Department of Justice from last month could be released as well. We are still waiting word on that. But certainly it's been an all-court press, and the pressure is not going to stop, even though the House of Representatives is not in right now. The Oversight Committee making it clear they intend to get some answers.
Yeah, we keep saying this is a case that's not going away anytime soon, and every day it seems like there's something new to prove that. Jake Rosen, thank you so much for your time today.